happens when we begin to realize that the 200-year experiment we've called the American healthcare system has failed. Tune in to Awakened Wellness with Mylaine Riobe, MD, and join the conversation about how to heal our broken system to reverse our current health crisis. The entire world is looking for answers, and the truth is hidden in plain sight. Learn how spirituality, ancient traditions, and cutting-edge science are merging to create a new paradigm of wellness every Wednesday at 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. Eastern Time, with live video shows every first and third Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, when you can call in and ask the questions that matter most to you.
We're live.
Thank you, Rachel. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Mylaine Riobe, and you're watching and listening to Awakened Wellness. And today we're going on an eye-opening, mind-expanding adventure into disease prevention and wellness. And today we're talking about the ketogenic diet. So to keto or not to keto, that is the question, right? So our number here, we're live on Dream Vision 7 Radio. Our number is 646-558-8656. And our meeting ID is 883-695-3587. And to ask a question or make a comment, just hit *9. And as always, we love your questions, and we'd love to hear your comments, and look forward to having a great conversation today. So the ketogenic diet is, I guess, one of the latest fads. It's about 100 years old. It was formulated in 1921, so it'll actually celebrate its 100th anniversary this year at some point. It's a diet that was devised to treat epilepsy in the 1920s. And apparently it worked quite well back then. So it's kind of resurfaced over the past several years as an option for diet management, weight loss, and overall wellness. And so the question is, what is it? Is it safe? How long can I do it for? At least those are the questions I get asked a lot. And so what is a ketogenic diet? It's basically a nutrition plan that consists mostly of fats. Roughly 55 to 60% of your intake of calories would come in the form of fats. And another about 30 to 35% of your calories would come in the form of protein, and 5 to 10% in the form of carbohydrates. If we look at the average American diet, or what we call SAD, right? The standard American diet, 55% of calorie consumption is in the form of carbohydrates. So this is a mirror image of the SAD American diet, if you will. And so 55% of calories come from fats. And so what's the logic there, right? The logic is, if you eat fat, your body is not burning sugar because it doesn't have sugar there to burn. And so if you minimize the amount of sugar or carbohydrate intake, and instead you're consuming fat, your body now has to break that fat down in order to make utilizable energy. So it has to convert that fat into energy so that you can perform your body functions. And the advantage of that is now you're mobilizing fat. You're transforming fat into energy. And so that would, and for most people, result in weight loss, because most weight gain is a combination of inflammation and fat storage. And so the fat storage portion would be most utilized by a ketogenic diet, because now you have to burn fat because you're not taking in enough carbs to burn them efficiently for energy utilization. And so right off the bat, we can see there's an advantage to a ketogenic diet. from that standpoint. And so basically on a ketogenic diet, you're looking at eating mostly fats. And so a lot of oils, nuts, seeds, certain protein sources also contain fat. So those would also be included. So just about every type of good oil you can think of: avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil, various types of nuts, and seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds, leafy vegetables. Leafy vegetables don't count very much as carbohydrates because they have such few carbohydrates in them that they almost don't count. So when you're looking at cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, when you're looking at leafy vegetables, kale, collards, when you're looking at like grasses like asparagus and scallions, you can also throw onions in there, avocado, things like that are very good sources of fat for a ketogenic diet, and carbs. The problem with the ketogenic diet, if there is one, is it's extremely difficult to maintain because it's so restrictive. There's so many things you can't eat on a ketogenic diet or it doesn't work. So carbs are obviously the thing that people have to mostly concern themselves about if they're going on a ketogenic diet. So yogurt's out, milk is out, fruits are pretty much out except for limes and lemons. Berries have fairly low carbohydrate content, so you can get away with some berries, but you have to be a little bit paranoid because you can only take in about 30, 40 grams of carbohydrates per day. And that's nothing, right? 30 carbohydrates a day is really nothing. And so that's probably the biggest thing that hinders people from being on a ketogenic diet is needing to count the carbs and to concern themselves with carbohydrate intake. But once you kind of get started and you get into the habit of a ketogenic diet, there aren't very many food cravings on a ketogenic diet, which is helpful. So for people that have carb cravings, they have to snack on the chips and or the popcorn or whatever it is that they snack on as a carb. That doesn't happen so much on the ketogenic diet after a little while because you're getting sufficient calories and energy from a ketogenic diet. So we'll dive in a little deeper into the ketogenic diet and the specifics, like who can benefit from it, who should be cautious in using it. So the ketogenic diet is not for everyone. People with severe metabolic conditions such as diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, you don't want to just put yourself on a ketogenic diet. You really do need to be under the care of a physician who understands the ketogenic diet and the physiological changes that will ensue once you embark on such a diet. And so if you're on diabetes medication, blood pressure medications, heart medications, you may need your doses adjusted, and so that's not something to take on by yourself. The ketogenic diet has been shown to be beneficial for weight loss, management of blood sugar. It has been shown to lower blood pressure, and it should have some advantages for cardiovascular disease. There aren't a ton of studies on it for that, but logic dictates that it should help. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, well, if I eat that much fat, won't it cause my cholesterol to go up? And the answer is no, it won't. You might see a small bump in what's called the LDL cholesterol because fats obviously contain that. But what we're seeing in studies is it's not fat that causes high cholesterol, it's actually sugar. And we'll go into why that is. It's counterintuitive, but when you begin to understand how your body actually works, it becomes quite logical. Again, when your body has to burn sugar for energy, it's on a very tight, very narrow tightrope, I'll say. If you don't know exactly how many calories you're going to burn from moment to moment, your body has to store those calories in the form of fat. And so it's really hard. It's much harder for your body to try and figure out how to burn calories. It's hard for you to figure out how to burn calories. So if you're just sitting on the couch, for example, and you're not doing anything, or if you have a very sedentary job, you're on the computer all day and you're not really moving, you don't want to eat a lot of carbs, because if you do eat a lot of carbs, your body has no choice but to store those carbs as fat if it's not going to immediately burn them. And that's what's important to understand in metabolism, is if you're eating carbohydrates as a source of energy directly, if you don't burn those carbs, they get stored as fat. And so that equals weight gain, and that equals high cholesterol, because high cholesterol is a form of fat storage in the body. On the other hand, if you're eating fats, your body has no choice but to break the fats down in order to use them for energy. And so that's the difference. And if your body is burning down fats, it's not going to make cholesterol, because cholesterol is a fat storage mechanism. So if you're breaking down fat, you're breaking down cholesterol, you're breaking those things down in order for the body to use them for energy. And so that's the main reason why eating good fats is better than eating good carbs. Unless you are someone who burns a ton of calories. So if you have, if you're an endurance athlete, a professional athlete, an elite athlete, a triathlete, something like that, then yes, they eat carbs all day long because they're constantly burning that fuel to maintain their metabolism. But if you're just going to the gym a few times a week and fairly sedentary, you want to be very cautious with your carb intake, and you would be better off eating fat. Now, it's a slower process to break fat down. So if you're going to go to the gym and do a heavy workout, you can't just eat fat and take protein and go to the gym because it's much harder for your body to break the fat down into energy. And so you want to be very cautious with those two extremes. So where do we begin? How do we go on a keto diet, and who should go on a keto diet, right? So again, people who are obese, and unfortunately that's an increasing percentage of our population, because the average American eats 55% of their calories as carbohydrates, and there's no way they're going to burn those calories throughout the day. And so it's going to be stored as fat. The other problem with carbs is they're kind of dirty, and so they trigger inflammation. They're not a clean way to get energy into the body unless you're eating really good carbs, the green leafy vegetables and really clean carbs. Otherwise, you're going to have a little bit of inflammation as a byproduct of eating a lot of carbs. And so that's going to translate into weight gain. So people that need to lose weight, ketogenic diet is a good outlet, a good source of weight loss. People with significant heart disease, hypertension, and diabetes. But again, you have to be under the care of someone who can supervise your diet, in particular if you're on medication. You don't want to be taking your usual dose of insulin on a ketogenic diet, because clearly you're going to be dropping your carbohydrate intake. And so that can be dangerous. Same thing with blood pressure medication. You can bottom out your blood pressure if you suddenly stop eating carbs, at the same rate that you used to. People on blood thinners, you have to be very careful. If you're going on a ketogenic diet, you can have issues with bleeding. So it's not, something to undertake alone if you have those medical conditions and if you have been prescribed medications. So I did some calculations on myself just to kind of see what a keto diet would look like if I did one. And so one good way to start is to figure out, well, how many calories do I burn in a resting state, right? So if I were to just sit on a couch all day and do nothing, how many calories would I burn? And so even when we're asleep, we're burning calories because we're breathing, our hearts are beating, our bodies are restoring themselves, we're fighting off infections, we're digesting, we're managing inflammation, our bodies are constantly turning over. And so there are trillions of chemical reactions going on even at rest, and that all requires energy. And so for me, given my age, height, and weight, my basal metabolic rate was 851 calories. So even if I sit on my couch all day long and do absolutely nothing, I'm going to burn about 900 calories a day. And so you can kind of calculate from that, well, how many calories do I need to consume in a normal day? And so there are some general ideas. And you can look up how to calculate your basal metabolic rate on the internet. It's readily available. It's a little bit of math, but it's pretty easy to do. And it has to do with your age, your weight, and your height. And then from there, you want to figure out, well, if I'm sedentary, I'm going to multiply my basal metabolic rate by about 1.2. And if I undergo light activity, if I'm just basically maybe moving around in an office, doing some cooking, not really exercising, and just, maybe walking around in the neighborhood, but mostly I'm driving around in my car and I'm sitting around all day, then it's 1.4. You calculate your basal metabolic rate, you multiply that by 1.4. If you're moderately active, maybe you walk around the block, you walk your dog, you walk a mile or two a day, but you're not really doing any strenuous activities, then you might multiply your basal metabolic rate by about 1.55. If you're very active, you go to the gym 3-4 times a week, you do a pretty moderate workout, or you're working out with a personal trainer, you're doing Pilates, things like that, then you want to multiply it by 1.7. And if you're extremely active, you're that triathlete, you're a marathon runner, or you have a very labor intensive job, then you want to multiply that by 1.9 or so. And so most people are going to fall around the 1200 calorie range. So I use 1200 calories as just a ballpark. So if you're doing 1200 calories a day, you're going to consume about 55 to 60% of those as fat. So that comes out to about 73 grams of fat, which is actually not a lot, right? That's like 3 tablespoons of olive oil or something. Fat is very dense in calories. So a very small volume of fat equals a lot of calories. So it's not a lot of fat. And then protein comes out at 35% on a 1200 calorie diet. That comes out to about 105 grams of protein a day, which is probably a lot more than most people eat, in particular women. My patients, when they first come into the office, are typically eating anywhere from 30 to 50 grams of protein a day. So this is almost doubling most people's protein intake. At 35% on a 1200 calorie diet. And then carbs at about 10%, you're looking at 30 grams of carb, which again is almost nothing. So you want to be super careful on a keto diet that you're calculating your ratios properly. And so what kinds of fats are good? So again, monounsaturated fats, healthy fats, fats you would find on a Mediterranean diet are probably the best. And again, you can Google lists of foods that are keto friendly. That's pretty easy to find, but it's pretty much any nut or seed, olive oil, coconut oil, MCT oil, fish oil, olive oil, avocado oil, all the good fats that we hear about all the time are optimal for a ketogenic diet. Proteins, you want to make sure they're extremely clean. So this is not really a low protein diet. It's a moderate protein diet. And so with the ketogenic diet, muscle mass is often spared, which is an advantage that we don't see with other more calorie restrictive diets. So this is not a calorie restriction diet. You're just flipping around the types of foods that you're eating, and you're eating roughly the same number of calories that you normally would. And so you're just using different foods that are going to be metabolized in your body differently and probably, healthier. And so you're actually probably, most women will be increasing their protein intake on this type of diet. So really clean meats are critically important. Again, we talk a lot about making sure that you eat grass-fed, grass-finished, organic meat products, and be absolutely certain that your meats are not being fed GMO grains. Be absolutely certain that they're not being given hormones and antibiotics. Those things are toxic, and they render your foods into chemicals, right? We can't even call those types of foods. We can call them chemicals. We don't want to eat those. Organic poultry, very important. Fish, wild caught. There's a new gimmick to call things, I forget what they call it because it's so crazy, but it's something about farm raised in the ocean, which makes no sense. So you want to make sure that your fish is truly wild caught. And so you have to be just a little bit careful. Otherwise, you're taking in chemicals and not food, and it's going to backfire. You don't want to take in chemicals, pesticide-laden foods, and things like that. So just be very careful in the way that you select your food. But good proteins, again, grass-fed, grass-finished meats, elk, bison, venison, duck, poultry, no GMO soy. Again, soy has been genetically modified, so you have to be very careful that it's no GMO. Tempeh, things like that should be just fine. Mushrooms are a great source of antioxidants. Let's see, green leafy veggies, cruciferous vegetables, grasses. Carbs that you want to watch out for, root vegetables, so starchy carbs, potatoes, yams, things like that. You're probably going to exceed your 30 grams per day limit. Legumes, you want to be very careful with beans and peas. Very easy to exceed daily calories. You also want to watch grains and fruits. Very easy to exceed the 30 grams or 40 grams or 50 grams, depending on your basal metabolic rate and activity. So again, your carbs are very limited on a keto diet. So be very careful there. So that's the kind of the nuts and bolts of what a ketogenic diet is and kind of how to get started on one. And again, you just want to kind of watch. You're going to see some weight loss. You don't want drastic weight loss. You never want drastic weight loss. Probably what you'll see in the beginning is you're going to lose weight a little bit rapidly because what you're really losing is inflammation and water retention, and you're not really yet losing fat. So typically there's kind of two phases of weight loss. There's kind of that dramatic, whoa, I lost so much weight in 1 week. Well, really what you lost was inflammation and water retention. And then it starts to slow down. And that's when you're starting to dig into fat reserve, and that tends to be a little slower. So don't worry if you plateau, just trust the form, right? I tell people to trust the form. It's like you're trying to learn golf or tennis or a basketball shot. You have to trust the form. In the beginning, you don't know how to tell if it's working or not, right? The ball never goes in the basket. The ball never goes in the hole. You never get the ball over the net. But if you trust your form and you keep practicing your form, eventually it clicks. You develop that muscle memory. You develop, the fine tuning. And it's the same thing with weight loss. Trust the diet, trust the form, and just keep looking and making sure, am I following the diet, right? Because sometimes we'll stray off and we don't realize it. So it's always good to say, am I doing it right? Am I following the form? Am I following the diet? So those are the nuts and bolts, just very quickly on what a ketogenic diet is, and how to get started on one. When we come back from this first commercial break, we'll talk about the physiology of a ketogenic diet, so you can kind of begin to understand what makes it a logical choice for some people. And we'll come back and answer your questions in just a moment. You're listening to Awakened Wellness. I'm Dr. Mylaine Riobe, and we're live here on Dream Vision 7 Radio. We'll be right back.
What happens when we begin to realize that the 200-year experiment we've called the American healthcare system has failed? Learn how spirituality, ancient traditions, and cutting-edge science are merging to create a new paradigm of wellness on Awakened Wellness with Mylaine Riobe, MD. Tune in every Wednesday at 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. Eastern Time with live video shows every first and third Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, when you can call in and ask Dr. Mylaine the questions that matter most to you. Dr. Mylaine is the medical director of the Riobe Institute of Integrative Medicine in Jupiter, Florida. For more information, visit RIOBE integrativemedicine.com. Dream Vision 7 Radio Network invites you in for this dynamic, forward-thinking show.
Join Dr. Bernie Siegel on Mind Health Matters every Thursday and Friday, 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. Eastern Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Bernie will draw from his inspirational personal journey, offering us special nuggets of his sacred wisdom weaved through his delightful stories. Listen in as Bernie reminds us to be fully engaged in life.
Ever wonder what it's like to have your own radio show? Well, wonder no longer, because you can dip into the radio airwaves by being host for the day on syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. It's a fabulous way to get your radio feet wet. It's an opportunity to market your business, modality, or book. Have a guest, mention a sponsor, and take callers. Or you may want to facilitate a lesson by going solo. It's up to you. Listeners can be online, mobile, in cars with Bluetooth, or listen through Amazon's Echo by asking, Alexa, play Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. For more details, go to dreamvision7radio.com and click on Host for the Day.
Looking for a fun and relaxing getaway? Omega Rest and Rejuvenation retreats are a great way to unwind and renew your spirit. Sit and read in the garden, explore the woodland trails, or try a daily yoga or meditation class. You can stretch your body, quiet your mind, and do as much or as little as you choose. Located in Rhinebeck, New York, just 90 miles north of New York City, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
We're back.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm Dr. Mylaine Riobe, and we're back here on Awakened Wellness, and we have some questions. So yes, going back to last week about the apple cider vinegar. I'm assuming it's apple cider vinegar because we were talking about alkaline diet. So apple cider vinegar in general is acidic, but apple cider vinegar vinegar also has what are called phytophenols, which are antioxidants. So again, we talked a lot about why not all acids are bad. And so when we make a broad categorization of, needing to avoid acids in our diet, we want to be very cautious about making those sweeping statements. We want to avoid bad acids, but we don't want to avoid good acids, right? Like ascorbic acid, for example, that we would find in lemons. Vitamin C, it's an acid, but it's good for us. We need hydrochloric acid in our stomachs to digest food. And so not every acid is bad. So vinegar is a type of acid that can be very good for you because it has antioxidant qualities. And so antioxidants help prevent cellular damage. So they keep your cells healthier. And so apple cider vinegar has been touted and used for centuries, as basically an antioxidant, a food that you can ingest that will keep you healthier. And there is some scientific basis for that. Obviously, you don't want to, drink vinegar because it is acidic. So you have to dilute it. And you might want to put, like a teaspoon or something in a liter of water or something like that. But so that's the scoop on apple cider vinegar. Hope that answered that question for you. And let's see, are we talking about the Atkins diet? No, we're actually not talking about the Atkins diet, although there might be some overlap. So the Atkins diet, there really is no concern for the quality of fats that you eat in general. Here, we want to eat good fats, right? We want to eat fats that are known to be healthy for us. Again, not all fats are created equal, just like not all acids are created equal. And so we want to make sure that we're eating high quality fat. So that's the difference between an Atkins, where it kind of doesn't really care what kind of fat you eat. Ketogenic diet, there is concern about the type of fat you eat. So that's the difference there. You'll find some keto bars, like they have those. Again, you always want to read your labels because you want to make sure that it does in fact follow what you're on, right? Because we're not one size fits all. We're very unique individuals. And so our requirements will vary. Let's see, what are the questions? A blood type, yes. So A blood type, and we're not quite sure why. We think it's due to difficulty in digesting meats, but we're not sure. So A blood types want to be careful with meat consumption, but you can eat poultry and seafood and no GMO soy. B blood types and O blood types, really no restrictions per se on meats. But again, everyone is different. So it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody with an A blood type doesn't need to eat meat. So people who are very blood deficient and cold, despite being blood type A, might benefit from eating meat because meat is blood nourishing and warming. And so again, you want some personal guidance. And that's why I love traditional Chinese medicine. It helps you to really sort through the data to know which of the data points apply to you as opposed to anyone else. So hope that answered that question. And let's see what else here. My new primary care doctor told me to avoid meat and fats. He says that they clog up my veins. I've never heard of this theory before. Have you heard about this kind of diet, rice and potatoes? No, I haven't. I would hope that maybe you misunderstood him, but I'm not sure. I would maybe question him again. But no, we've pretty much debunked carbs as being a good food. Sadly, in the 1960s, when the data on the potential health risks of sugars was being determined, unfortunately, there was some manipulation of the data. And what ended up being published in the medical journals was not actually what was found in the studies. And so that's what kind of started to vilify fat as being dangerous for people. We're now beginning to understand, as other studies were conducted, that fats are not dangerous unless they're bad fats, right? So we know trans fats, et cetera, are bad fats. They were kind of manufactured. Again, they're chemicals, not really food. But we now understand that fats are not a health hazard. Now, again, everything in balance, right? If you consume way more fats than your body can utilize, then yes, you're going to run into problems. If you consume way more carbs than your body can utilize, you're going to run into problems. If you consume more protein than your body can utilize, you're going to run into problems, right? So, I would suggest having just carbohydrates is not a safe way to go, and you might want to get a second opinion from another physician. How can I make an appointment with you? Oh, sure. So we're here in Jupiter, Florida. Our number is area code 561-244-5880. And our email address is info@riobeintegrativemedicine.com. Riobe is spelled Riobe, and our website is www.riobeintegrativemedicine.com. And you can reach us by any one of those three methods. So thank you for that question. And let me make sure I have them all here. I tried this kind of diet before. I just have no energy, so I stopped. I don't want to be tired. Any suggestions? Yeah. You shouldn't be tired on this diet. Now, you may be tired. They have this thing where there's almost like a die-off reaction that occurs. It's almost like a shock to the body to just take away the carbs. Because again, carbohydrates are really easy for your body to burn when it needs it. But if it gets too many, it stores it as fat, right? So it's a quick access for your body. And so when you take that away, and now your body doesn't have the quick access to the sugar that it had before, you're going to feel kind of crummy for a while because your body's searching, for another mechanism. It'll find it, but it just takes time. So some people kind of get what's called the keto die-off, almost the keto flu, I guess is what they call it. They just don't feel good for a while. Especially if you were used to eating a lot of carbs and now suddenly you take them away. And so, you want to be a little bit, just persevere a little bit more. Make sure you reduce your activities as well. Just kind of relax at the beginning so that you're not doing too much as your body is transitioning, because it's a stress, right? It's stressful to suddenly change your diet. It's stressful to suddenly do anything. And so this is no different. So you want to give your body time to acclimate to this new diet. So maybe you just didn't give it enough time. And also, again, I would recommend being under the guidance of a physician who can help you, because you may not be on the right proportions of foods. You may need to modify your proportions. If you're taking medications, those doses may need to be adjusted. So there could be numbers of reasons why you didn't feel well. So those are just a few suggestions. Yeah. Oh, you mentioned a book coming out last week. When is it available? Oh, yes, Faith. It's available now. So if you go to our website, you'll see it there, available for purchase. You can also purchase it on Amazon. And it is available in ebook format at barnesandnoble.com. And the audiobook I'm hoping to have ready next month for publication. So it's available in hardcover now. You can purchase a copy on our website. You can also purchase an ebook at barnesandnoble.com, and audiobook should be coming out hopefully soon. So thank you for all those questions. They're great. And let me just make sure I stay on time here. Yes. All right. So how does the keto diet work and why does it work? Right. So when you take in carbs of any kind, you get an insulin spike. And so insulin is the hormone that your body produces in order to take sugar into the cells, right? So we eat the carbs, they're digested through the stomach, get absorbed in through the small intestine into the bloodstream, and now they go to the liver. From the liver, they're circulated out into the body. Now your cells have to take the sugar in, right? So sugar in your bloodstream is extremely toxic. Your body does not like it. It's sticky, it's nasty. So insulin gets secreted right away into the bloodstream so it can take the sugar and yank it into your cells. Inside your cells, there's a mechanism then that will burn it. So we talked about the Krebs cycle or the citric acid cycle. And that's the metabolic engine that takes sugar and converts it to energy. And then your cells can use that energy for their functions, whatever functions they need: vision, ambulation, reproduction, anything that you need. Your body makes energy through the utilization of sugar. And so insulin also makes the body store fat, right? Because again, if you can't burn those calories, if the body can't yank it into the cells and burn it right away, it's going to go to plan B, which is to store that sugar as fat. Insulin also, insulin also causes fat storage. So it causes the body to use sugar for energy, and whatever's left over, it also causes it to be stored as fat. So insulin controls that. And so, again, if you reduce your calories, now you're not going to have the insulin spikes. Your body's not going to make as much insulin. So now you go into what's called a catabolic state. So your body starts to break down fat in order for you to make energy. So before it does that, it undergoes a few other things. So the first thing is your liver starts to make sugar for you. So there's a process called gluconeogenesis, where it takes certain types of amino acids from the proteins that you eat and some other byproducts. So it'll use lactic acid, it'll use alanine and glutamine specifically, and it will make glucose from those precursors, pump that out into the body so that your body can use that as energy. That only occurs for about 20 minutes or so. If you're continuing to need to make energy, you're exercising or you're doing something else, your body will then go into burning of fat. So it'll break your fats down into fatty acids, and then those fatty acids will be converted into ketones, which will then be used for energy. And so the ketones are kind of sugar-like to your body, except you actually get more energy out of ketones than you do out of sugar. So it's a better form of energy production. And that's one of the main reasons you shouldn't really feel hungry on a ketogenic diet, because you're getting more energy out of the ketones than you would out of glucose or sugar. And so then your body starts to burn down the fatty acids into ketones, and then those ketones get burned into energy, which your body can then use to perform its functions. Ketones are generally quite safe. They are not known to cause any problems, and they're a healthy way to create and utilize energy. It's not the same as ketoacidosis. So ketoacidosis is when you're making dangerous levels of lactic acid inside the cell. So again, we talked about that last podcast. That's extremely dangerous. That can actually kill you. But the ketogenic diet does not induce ketoacidosis. And so we don't really have to worry about that. Ketoacidosis, though, can be created in metabolic diseases. So diabetics are at high risk for ketoacidosis, especially insulin-dependent diabetics. So again, if you're an insulin-dependent diabetic, you want to be very careful going on a ketogenic diet, and you want to do that under guidance. All right, I think we covered all the questions, so we'll just keep going. Let's see. Yeah, one other thing. So what are the long-term implications of using a ketogenic diet, right? So it's not been extensively studied, although it's been in use since the 1920s. We don't have a ton of scientific information for long-term use. But again, we can extrapolate, right? We can use our common sense and what we know about the physiology of the body to suggest that it's probably safe long-term, right? But again, if you're on medications, things change. So you always want to be reassessing, is this still the right diet for me? And it may be, and it may not be. I think the most difficulty is in the restriction of the foods that can be eaten. Whenever you restrict the foods that you can eat, you're going to be at risk for vitamin deficiencies and nutrient deficiencies. So any, quote unquote diet can place you at risk for nutrient deficiencies. So you always want to just be careful about that as well. So we'll pick up on that after this next commercial break. We'll talk about long-term ketogenic diets and the potential implications and things we want to look out for so that you can safely utilize this diet if it is in fact something that is good for you. So we're here again live on Dream Vision 7 Radio. I'm Dr. Mylaine Riobe, and you're listening to Awakened Wellness, and we'll be right back.
What happens when we begin to realize that the 200-year experiment we've called the American healthcare system has failed? Learn how spirituality, ancient traditions, and cutting-edge science are merging to create a new paradigm of wellness on Awakened Wellness with Mylaine Riobe, MD. Tune in every Wednesday at 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. Eastern Time with live video shows every first and third Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, when you can call in and ask Dr. Mylaine the questions that matter most to you. Dr. Mylaine is the medical director of the Riobe Institute of Integrative Medicine in Jupiter, Florida. For more information, visit RIOBE integrativemedicine.com. Dream Vision 7 Radio Network invites you in for this dynamic, forward-thinking show.
EDECIA is a U.S. nonprofit dedicated to the dream of ending childhood malnutrition for millions of children around the world through the manufacture of Plumpy Nut and other nutrient-rich, peanut-based, ready-to-use foods. EDECIA has already delivered life and hope to nearly 1 million children in over 26 developing countries. To find out how you can join EDECIA's dream of ending childhood malnutrition, please visit edeciaglobal.org.
What if dreams can diagnose your life? What if we can meet the love of our life in dreams? Join host Kat O'Keefe Canavas, the #1 internationally best-selling author of Dreams That Can Save Your Life, written with Duke University medical doctor Larry Burke. Dreaming Healing is where we'll explore dreams, research, and interpret dreams from you, the caller. Dreaming Healing shows can be heard every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern, with live shows on the first and third evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Come live your dreams out loud with Kat.
Are you searching for a way to help create global change? Dream Vision 7 Radio Network's vision is to have an eclectic group of radio hosts dedicated to educating, enlightening, and helping humankind with positive messages and tools that enhance lives using different modalities and programs. If you would like to join our team and help illuminate the universe, call Deborah at 508-226-1723 or Deborah at dreamvision7radio.com. This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we're back.
Thank you, Rachel. You're listening to Awakened Wellness. Welcome back. And today our topic is to keto or not to keto. And so, it's pretty clear that people that would benefit from this diet are people with metabolic disorders, people who are overweight, heart disease, hypertension, diabetics, and again, under guidance, in particular, if you're on medication. And so what are the long-term potential implications of a ketogenic diet? So some of the things that have been noted are kidney stones, some elevation of LDL, or the so-called bad cholesterol. Although that's a little bit up for debate. You know, there's a lot of controversy about the so-called bad cholesterol now that we have more technology to show that there are subcategories of the LDL. So there are 4 different types of LDL, and we don't really have a lot of data to show us yet, that I could find anyway, if the ketogenic diet increases the good types of LDL. So they're within the LDL, or the so-called bad cholesterol, are good and bad LDLs. The bad ones are the small ones that stick to each other. The good ones are what are called the buoyant LDLs, usually type 3 and type 4 LDL. They're big, so they kind of bounce off each other. They're not as sticky, so they don't tend to form plaques. So we don't have the jury's out as to whether this increase of LDL is actually the good LDL that the ketogenic diet is increasing. So we don't know about that one yet. But kidney stones, probably the most annoying side effect of the ketogenic diet that people report. So overall, to use it for about a year should be quite safe. But again, if you're under the guidance of a physician who's well-versed in a ketogenic diet, then you can be reassessed from year to year, right? It's not an easy diet to be on. You know, no diet is easy to be on because of the restrictive nature of the diets. And so, you know, if you're coming off of a ketogenic diet, you just want to be very, again, cautious that you don't go back to eating 55% carbs, right? That's the danger. So you want to keep your carbs fairly low, your fats fairly high, and then your proteins fairly high, right? We talked about 105 grams of protein for someone on a 1,200 calorie diet. You know, it's a decent bit of protein. And so you should be able to maintain body fat. You should not have cravings. You know, if you've really been on it long enough. If you still have cravings, then there's something else going on. Again, your body's smart. So if it's craving energy, it's because it's having difficulty making energy. So we talked about the Krebs cycle before, and it's that cycle that all your cells, every single cell in the body uses the Krebs cycle to make energy. So if you're still feeling tired, you don't feel good, you've given the diet, you know, a good shot, and it's, you know, you're not doing well. Something else is going on. And so you want to look for nutrition deficiencies. If you're missing a lot of vitamins, the Krebs cycle can't cycle. And so you won't be able to efficiently make energy, and you're going to feel tired, and your body is going to give you the symptom of cravings. And so you always want to listen to the body. If the body's telling you something's wrong, you probably want to go find out what that something is, right? It's usually nutritional deficiencies or a gastrointestinal problem. You know, that's why we talk about the gastrointestinal system so much, right? If you have a problem and you're not absorbing fat, you know, if you have an infection in your stomach or in your small intestine and you can't absorb fat, you're going to have a problem on a ketogenic diet. Or if you're having trouble absorbing proteins. And so, you know, if you go on this diet, you've given it enough time and you still don't feel good, something else is going on. So you want to be assessed. Again, that's why you don't really want to do diets alone. You want to be assessed if you have malabsorption, nutrient deficiencies, and correct those. And then try the diet again, or you may not even need the diet if those underlying factors of the weight gain and the diabetes actually get, you know, corrected. So those are some things to look out for if you're doing a ketogenic diet. And again, can the average Joe do a ketogenic diet? Sure, you can. It's not a bad thing to purge the body of carbs for a while. That'll help reduce inflammation. You know, it'll help keep you healthy in general. So the myth of fats being bad for you has been debunked. The myth of carbs being good for you has been debunked. It all depends on the carbs you're consuming. You want to watch for processed foods. That's the biggest factor. Those are chemicals, not foods. And so, do your research, ask questions, engage your physicians, and I would encourage everyone to be under the care of a board certified integrative medical doctor or a doctor of Oriental medicine or an Ayurvedic practitioner. Nutritionists are great resources, registered dietitians. Be curious and ask a lot of questions, read some really good resources and books. And that'll help you make the most informed decisions for you and your loved ones. So that's all the time we have for our show today. Thank you so much for listening to Awakened Wellness. I'm your host, Dr. Mylaine Riobe. And until we meet again, I send you lots of love and many blessings on your journey. Stay safe. Thank you.
Join us next time on Awakened Wellness with Mylaine Riobe, MD, to learn how spirituality, ancient traditions, and cutting-edge science are merging to create a new paradigm of wellness. Awakened Wellness airs every Wednesday at 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. Eastern Time, with live video shows every first and third Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern of each month. Meanwhile, you can join our Facebook page at facebook.com/awakenedwellness and let us know what you'd like to discuss on future episodes. Dr. Mylaine is the medical director of the Riobe Institute of Integrative Medicine in Jupiter, Florida. For more information, visit riobeintegrativemedicine.com. This show is part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life